19 days until 5,240 ANC members put pen to paper and decide who will lead them over the next 5 years. Africa's oldest liberation movement is tearing itself apart as warring factions eye the finish line. This is Political Capital. I'm Karabole Tata, and over the next 30 minutes, we take you on the campaign trail. We will follow one of the favorites to win in December, Dlamini-Zuma, as she tries to woo the Mpumalanga province. We will also speak to newly appointed Minister of Energy, David Mahlobo, who gives us his views about his home province, Mpumalanga, and the race to December. But first up, let's hear what the papers had to say. In a bid to foster unity among those fighting for the ANC top job, Jacob Zuma, President of South Africa and of the ANC, invited all the 7 presidential candidates to dinner. All the 8 comrades sat down a day before South Africa was downgraded by S&P Global Ratings to junk. All eyes on Emmerson Mnangagwa's cabinet choices. That was splashed across the daily news. Following a history-making week in Zimbabwe, political analysts have called on Emmerson Mnangagwa to form an inclusive cabinet and government. Reports arrive and suggest that the new president might even appoint opposition leaders Morgan Tsvangirai and Joyce Mujuru to government positions. And finally, it's the story that keeps on giving in South Africa, the Gupta leaks. According to the Daily Maverick, KPMG missed more money laundering red flags when handling the accounts of the politically connected family, the Guptas. According to the paper, KPMG had enough evidence to see that something was wrong when auditing the Gupta companies. Over the next few weeks, politicians are going to pound the road in pursuit of power. This is the campaign trail, the grind of the run-up to the National Elective Conference of the African National Congress, the party which has ruled South Africa for more than 24 years. In December, there will be a vote by thousands of delegates to decide who will lead the party. Whomever that is will also stand as the party's presidential candidate in 2019 elections, with every hope of becoming the country's next leader. What it means for now is a lot of handshakes, speeches, and smiles. Mpumalanga, vast lands in the northeast of South Africa, fertile lands for farming. At this time, it's also fertile land for votes. The name means the place where the sun rises. It could also be the place where political careers rise. This province will boast the second highest number of ANC delegates going into the December elective conference. Whoever rules the ANC must woo and win Mpumalanga. This was a show of force for one of the leading contenders, former cabinet minister Dlamini-Zuma. This was supposed to be a women's league rally in Mpumalanga. It became a Dlamini-Zuma fest.
Amanda! Viva ANC, viva!
She's one of the outstanding leaders of the movement. Not only the Women's League, but the African National Congress. With her, when you meet with her, you meet a humble leader, a focused leader, a leader who is able to listen to you.
The big names from the big groups were also here. Veterans of the Mkhonto Wesizwe military wing of the party and the African National Congress Youth League.
Well, I think that Comrade Nkosazana, in all the podiums she has taken, she has elevated issues of young people, particularly issues of unemployment. She said herself that we can't continue to build a battalion of an army of unemployed young people. She speaks around issues of free education. So we think that, and she speaks about issues of radical economic transformation, which in our view the ANC has failed in the past 23 years to deal with those issues. So this time around, our people did not struggle only for the right to vote. They also struggled to be part of the mainstream economy of the country. Now, amongst all the candidates, she's the only person who speaks and elevates these issues. And hence, our decision to support her.
Comrade, I heard you on stage saying you are unapologetic as the Youth League about wanting your land back, about radical economic transformation. Those are not words that give investors, easy nights. They make them have sleepless nights. What do you say to people who are apprehensive about what you call radical economic transformation, and what is it?
Look, we are serving at the behest of our people. The investors did not vote for the ANC. We are voted by the majority of our people. And when we struggled for these things that we spoke about. And we know that, for instance, when President Zuma wants to introduce free education, the rand goes down. So we know that all these things are manipulated, and these are scare tactics. We are not going to give in for those tactics. It's high time now that we take the bull by its horns and be radical and not be apologetic about the future of the country. We must dismantle the status quo. People are coming, Chinese are coming, Russians are coming in and out of the country. They want to invest and they agree with us. Those who don't agree with us, they can go.
Comrade, one of the things that have been placed at the campaign of Comrade Dlamini-Zuma is that it doesn't enunciate the fight against corruption, the fight against state looting. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, if you take the history of Comrade Dlamini-Zuma, and you have said it yourself that she's not corrupt, and part of the things that we're all speaking about in the ANC is to fight corruption. And we know that in a previous deployment, she has now been accused of corruption. We agree that the ANC cannot be known as a corrupt organization. We will deal with all elements that seeks to represent or erode what the ANC stands for. But Nkosazana Dlamini as a person cannot be called corruption.
It is also about capturing votes. Small gestures like these are ways of winning over the hearts and minds of party faithfuls. Often, this takes forms of food parcels. On this day, Dlamini-Zuma was giving machines to small businesswomen who live in the Ndebele region. Supporters of Dlamini-Zuma also paid a frontline South African singer, Kelly Khumalo, to entertain the crowd here. As well as a few songs here and there, Kelly also added her endorsement. But the music is not so sweet within the party itself. There are allegations that its founding principle of freedom is being belittled by an outbreak of factionalism, groups struggling for control. The ANC Women's League president, Batabile Dlamini, worries that it could seep into the presidential race.
We know all the tricks that people are used to. We know that others are going to, they have already started saying that it's only the deputy president that can be president of an organization. And there's nothing that says that in the constitution you must be deputy president before you become a president. And we know their tricks. They are going to go to conference and suggest that before we even start with the nominations and propose that president must be, deputy president must be president of the organization. We know their tricks, we are ready for them.
Do you think the CR17 campaign is edging out the NDZ campaign within the branches of the ANC?
I don't want to speak ill of other people, but as we are here today, there was noise coming from the other side. And then I became curious. And then when I came down, they told me that there are people that are coming with T-shirts written #Siyavuma. Then we nudged them to move out because we would have put on our T-shirts too. But what was worse is that those people were drunk. They did not even, were not even able to speak properly. And they wanted to fight. And when we just wanted to say to them, look, please, your volume, must be toned down. And so you can't talk to them. And I've never seen members of the ANC like that.
Mpumalanga is seen as one of the swing provinces in the leadership race. The ANC delegates from here who will vote in December could decide the entire contest. Even then, that will merely decide the person who will stand as the presidential candidate for the ANC. Then the party will have to win the elections in 2019. That is becoming increasingly difficult as South Africa struggles against economic hard times and unemployment. What the party has to do is convince people like these that there will be a change.
Now 4 years run the business there.
Injani business kule 4 years wena uyibona injani?
Ya ekuqaleni ibi phezulu manje ipass.
Why cabanga ukuthi ipass?
Ya ngiyabona wenza kwakho ukuthi akusafani nokuqalela.
So umama uNkosazana Dlamini-Zuma beyala uzokhuluma nabantu base bakwamhlanga as she campaigns ukuba ipresident ye-ANC. Ucabanga ukuthi angayenza ipresident enjani? Mpumalanga, the place where the sun rises. The people who live here want their living standards to rise too. Votes in the province like these will decide who runs South Africa after 2019.
Well, I group the candidates into three. The first batch is Cyril Ramaphosa, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, and Zweli Mkhize. Then I put Zweli Mkhize in a second batch on his own. This is the batch of the compromise candidate. And then there is the batch of the rest. So clearly, the front runners are Dlamini-Zuma and Cyril Ramaphosa. Some in the ANC hope that Zweli Mkhize will emerge as the compromise candidate. And the question is, what role will the rest of the candidates play in shaping the direction of the contest and the outcome, of course, of the contest? Now, ordinarily, one would argue that issues such as the policy standpoint of each candidate will determine whether that candidate is going to be the winning candidate or not. But in reality, a policy is not going to matter. What will matter is whether the winning candidate has the support of the dominant faction in the ANC or not, or if for some reason the dominant faction starts to lose support, whether there is enough time for the candidate who does not have support from the dominant faction to catch up with the candidate or to the candidate who has the support of the dominant faction. To give an example, Dlamini-Zuma and Ramaphosa have a common enemy, and that common enemy is time. The momentum has been shifting away from Dlamini-Zuma towards Cyril Ramaphosa. The question is whether there is enough time for the momentum to shift decisively towards Ramaphosa. But if you are looking at it from the perspective of Dlamini-Zuma, your prayer is that there shouldn't be enough time for Ramaphosa to catch up. But if you look at some of the tactical mistakes Ramaphosa is making, I think we can still argue that Dlamini-Zuma is ahead, and partly ahead because of the tactical mistakes Ramaphosa has been making, including the tactical mistake of announcing a slate publicly. Another factor that is going to be important is the provincial balance of support. Yes, branches are going to be important because nominations are coming directly from branches. But branch delegates will be influenced by regional and provincial dynamics to some extent. Now, the task for Ramaphosa is to create a new majority in the ANC, a new majority that will support him and therefore deliver the presidency of the ANC to him. The challenge for Dlamini-Zuma is to maintain the support she already enjoys from the dominant faction, the Zuma faction, in the ANC. What does this mean for Ramaphosa? It means, first of all, he must win Mpumalanga. But Mpumalanga is going for or towards Dlamini-Zuma. He must win the Free State. He must win the Northwest. But these two provinces are still Zuma provinces, despite the shifts in momentum towards Ramaphosa I am talking about. He must win KwaZulu-Natal, but KwaZulu-Natal is splitting in the main between Ramaphosa and Dlamini-Zuma. But as matters stand, Ramaphosa has not made enough of inroads to completely disadvantage Dlamini-Zuma in KwaZulu-Natal. So if you look at just those provinces, and the fact that the most solid and united amongst them is Mpumalanga, which has come out in support of Dlamini-Zuma. If we just look at those four provinces, Dlamini-Zuma, in my view, is still ahead. If you come to Gauteng, on the other hand, there's always been some misreading of the balance of support in Gauteng. People look at what the provincial leadership says and think the leadership speaks on behalf of branches or regions in the province. What we saw in Polokwane, and to some extent we're going to see this again as we saw it in 2012, is that the provincial leadership takes a position in support of this or that candidate, in this case, Ramaphosa. But they do not fully reflect sentiment on the ground at branch level. So Paul Mashatile, actually, is at the head of a province that is split when it comes to support between Dlamini-Zuma and Ramaphosa. The question is whether it is split to the advantage of Dlamini-Zuma or to the advantage of Ramaphosa. But overall, if you look at the 9 provinces, the winning candidate will need Mpumalanga and significant minorities in other provinces. Alternatively, we'll need Mpumalanga and a combination of significant minorities and some majorities in the rest of the provinces. But my analysis of the balance of support at the moment is that it still favors Dlamini-Zuma, but who knows?
Welcome back to Political Capital, because you can't have one without the other. Now, speaking of both, David Mahlobo is a man who combines both well. When he was appointed Minister of Energy, some said he had been appointed by the Russian ministry. Well, whatever or whoever appointed David Mahlobo, he is definitely a homegrown Mpumalanga-based member of the African National Congress who is also eyeing the National Elective Conference in December. Let's hear what he had to say about the factionalism and the fight that's going on in the ANC as we head into December.
What are your views on the upcoming ANC conference? Do you think that the process will be free and fair?
Well, the upcoming ANC conference is an important part of ANC processes. It will be our 54th national conference where the ANC, we should be in a position to conclude our policy options, because there's a number of issues that we need to be able to say, when the ANC got into power, where are we? Around issues of economy, around issues of governance, around the issues of communications, around issues of security, and including issues of international relations. The most important issue is that when that conference finishes, it must be able to give certainty that the ruling party over the next 5 years, what are the policy positions? Ultimately, at the end of the conference, before it finishes, the ANC must, amongst its members, and say who are these comrades who have the capacity, who have the strength and the wherewithal that can be able to implement our program. Well, we know that there are a number of challenges that the ANC has been facing over years, and that's why we're actually appealing to comrades to say whatever views they have, the unity of our movement is very important, because the unity of the ANC translates to the unity and cohesion of our country. Therefore, it's going to be very important that all of us who are going to that conference, we should do whatever it takes, even whatever preferences we have, that we should never undermine the standing of the organization in the eyes of the public, because the ANC does not belong to its members. It belongs to many South Africans whose only dreams, aspiration and confidence, they rest with the ANC. It's not only in South Africa. ANC is trusted by people in the region, people of the continent. They see the ANC as their movement, and we're hoping that those of us in leadership and those delegates who are coming will do whatever it takes, that conference, the prophets of doom, should not say their predictions was correct.
Minister, some of the ministers have come out in public to endorse candidates of their choices, and others are even competing. Can you reveal who or you have put your support behind?
Well, it's just something foreign. It's very foreign how other people have chosen to behave. The ANC, when it comes to issues of choices of leadership, we normally get to be guided by certain documents. There is a very important document, we call it Through the Eye of the Needle, where we look at the traits of leaders who can assume the position of leadership, that can be assumed in terms of their experience, their connect with the people, but also the strategic vision. This process of choosing leaders is a process that belongs to members. And I don't want to start to usurp the responsibility of membership to choose their leaders and start to impose it, because it must be organic, it must come from the ground. More importantly, I'm from a branch in Ward 17 in Nelspruit, Mbombela, in a region called Dlamini-Zuma. In the next few days, my region is going to be meeting. They are going to be making a decision to say what direction and is a preference. And the province, before the end of this month or early December, we are going to have our Provincial General Council, where we are going to be in a position that we are going to consolidate the outcome from the region. One of the things that I can tell you, the decision that will be made by Mpumalanga province, as the decision which is the will of the delegates and the members of the ANC in the branch, I'm going to come out and campaign for that decision of Mpumalanga province. And very soon, the decision of my province will be known when the branch has concluded its work.
What are your sentiments about the ANC on the ground? Do you still see the ANC as the party of O.R. Tambo?
The ANC, like any other big organization, it has done well. It has done well, but any organization that is in power, there are mistakes that we get to make. As President Tambo has ever told us, he said the struggle for freedom is one of the struggles that we can look as if it is more difficult, but it's going to be more difficult when we're running the state. And his words are coming through. There are mistakes that we've made. The country has progressed so well in terms of the conditions in which our people, they find themselves in terms of access to education, access to basic services, growing of the economy. But we've reached a point now where we need to be tested, because the ANC must adapt to difficult conditions. Levels of unemployment that are very high. Issues of poverty, in as much as our poverty alleviation program, like your social services, social security interventions are working, but there's too many people that are getting into the program. Then there's these issues of the stubbornness of the economy that does not work for all South Africans. The majority of our people, who are actually the people that actually must be, it's a very, very funny thing, because the majority of our people are not actually the owners of this economy. And this is a matter that we must address, because even those who have access to this economy, the security and the privileges they enjoy is not sustainable if the majority of our people are actually in the periphery of our economy. Those are the things we're actually dealing with. But then there are issues about the quality of our cadres and how our cadres, they're discharging their responsibilities in terms of leadership on the ground and across levels, and even how we behave and understanding on how to keep the movement together. Those are the issues that we need to be able to deal with. How do we build a cadre that understand the importance of the alliance, which is a very unique alliance in our continent. You can't find it anywhere. But we need a cadre that is going to be connecting to our people, know that I'm here taking this responsibility. I'm going to be selflessly servicing our people with dedication, without any issues that want to gain something. Those are the challenges the ANC is facing. And those of us, we don't have an option. We don't have an option. This ANC, we inherited it. Tambo gave us the ANC very stronger, very bigger, and we must hand it over to the next generation. No one can be starting to say the ANC is dead, the ANC is alive when it is in our hands. Therefore, we should be able to know that it's the only inheritance you can give our people. You don't want your children one day when they come to your grave, instead of putting flowers, they are actually spitting at your grave because you destroyed the only thing that made it a difference and brought freedom, brought this democracy we're in.
Minister, considering the current factionalism in the party, we've seen incidents in the Eastern Cape and in the KwaZulu-Natal province. Should we expect another split like we experienced it with COPE in the ANC after the December conference?
Well, there are those people who don't want to respect democracy. You know, there are people who don't believe in the unity of our movement. Because if they don't get in their own way, democracy is to be able to accept the will of the majority. If the majority, they choose a particular candidate in December, ultimately in December we're going to have a new president. And if we have been imbued with the values of our organization and traditions, we are not driven by other things we don't know. You will respect the outcome of the conference, rally behind the person that is going to be leading the ANC and the collective of the NEC members that will be elected. But even those that will be elected by the majority of the delegates in the conference, they have a responsibility to do whatever it takes, that those who have different views, they must not pursue them. Rather than they should be able to embrace them and be part of the solution. We will not rule out the issues of other people intending to leave the ANC. Others, they have been very irresponsible, pronouncing statement that if it is not our way, we are leaving the organization. We are asking those comrades to say, Marumo facts, can they calm down? Can their political consciousness come back, the manner they were doctrined in the movement? And to say this is just one of the normal processes. But if people, they want to lead, they don't want to be led, we will never be able to avoid the split. But it will be very unfortunate. That's why we're insisting that all of us, despite the temptation and how strongly we feel about certain issues, we don't want to see a split. If one comrade leaves the ANC, we're one minus, we're 1 week, and we can't afford another split.
And lastly, Minister, before we let you go, do you see the ANC winning the elections in 2019?
It will definitely win, but it's not going to be an easy journey. It's going to be difficult elections. If the ANC does what it does the best in terms of agility, in terms of adaptation, the ANC, when it goes in one direction, it has the capacity to respond. And in 2019, definitely the ANC is going to respond. But our journey towards the 2019 elections is not going to be an easy one. In South Africa, there is no other political party. These political parties, they have no program. They have no policy that is stronger than the ANC. All of them, they talk about us. It's only us that we need to be able to just keep this movement together, drive this economy, because the most important issue is to be able to drive our economy. We deliver the unemployment is high, as I was saying, address issues of socio-economic transformation or radical economic transformation, move ahead. But then build an ANC that is able to respond to the challenges of our time.